Welcome to today's edition of the Anaglyph Jukebox. You never know what you'll find on the old jukebox. Let's press B31. Okay, we've got Milt Caniff, 3D. Milton Arthur Milt Caniff was one of the most famous and influential of all comic book strip creators. But the type of realistic adventure strip that he pioneered has disappeared from the newspapers, a victim of the century-long downsizing of the format. Today's strips are printed at a size that simply could not accommodate the near photorealistic details of Caniff's great work on his two major strips, Terry and the Pirates and Steve Canyon. This style, which used heavy blacks and brushwork to suggest more detail than is actually on the page, was developed by Caniff's studio mate, artist Noel Sickles. Caniff and Sickles worked occasionally on each other's strips, and like other artists working closely together, they shared ideas and approaches. Sickles' strip, Scorchy Smith, featured a pilot for hire and adventurer, much like Caniff's later character, Steve Canyon. Sickles developed what he referred to as chiaroscuro, an Italian term that simply means the use of strong contrast between light and dark. Think Rembrandt, Caravaggio, Vermeer, and Goya. In fact, there's a sign in Caniff's hometown of Hillsboro, Ohio, that calls him the Rembrandt of comics. One of the great patron publishers of comic strips was Joseph Medill Patterson, founder of the New York Daily News and creator of the tabloid press format. In 1934, Patterson hired Caniff to create a new adventure strip. A 1947 Time magazine profile of Caniff explained the origin of Terry and the most famous supporting character in the strip's run, the Dragon Lady, this way. Patterson stared coldly at Caniff and asked, "Ever do anything on the Orient?" Caniff hadn't. "You know," Joe Patterson mused, "adventure can still happen out there. There could be a beautiful lady pirate, the kind men fall for." In a few days, Caniff was back with samples and 50 proposed titles. Patterson circled Terry and scribbled beside it, "and the Pirates." Terry and the Pirates was a hit, and it made Caniff nationally famous. Yes, there actually was a time when successful strip cartoonists were hugely popular public figures in America. Caniff stayed with Terry through 1946. He left to create a character that he would own outright. Marshall Field, publisher of the Chicago Sun, gave him that opportunity, almost unique in the industry at that time. Caniff left Terry in December 1946 and started his new adventure strip, Steve Canyon, in January 1947. This, too, was both national news and a major success for Caniff, who was now at the very peak of his career. Millions of fans across the country followed Steve Canyon's adventures daily and in glorious color on Sundays, just as they had followed Terry and the Pirates for years. Though Steve Canyon may not have been as wildly popular or as famous as Terry and the Pirates had been with his World War II adventures, the Canyon strip had a greater circulation than Terry ever had. Steve Canyon was often called an unofficial spokesman for the U.S. Air Force. The character's close association with the military caused a decline in readership during the Vietnam War. This reflected the social change and unrest of the era. It did not lessen the prestige that Caniff was held in by his peers and his publisher. He continued the strip until his death in 1988, an amazing run of 41 years. Caniff helped found the National Cartoonist Society. He won their first Cartoonist of the Year award, the Reuben, for work on both Terry and the Pirates and Steve Canyon. He would win it again in both 1971 and 1972 for Steve Canyon. The National Cartoonist Society has since named the Milton Caniff Lifetime Achievement Award in his honor. Call me crazy, and most people do, but there's a bit of both Terry and the Pirates and Steve Canyon in Steven Spielberg's Indiana Jones character.